Okay, we are live. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session by Phrase. We are running a webinar that is called Why You Should Activate Phrase Language AI. It is a bootcamp, so that means that we will go into the product and have a really like a hands-on session today. So thank you for taking the time in your day to spend some time with us to listen and hopefully to learn as well. Okay, so today's speaker is David McNamee, our Enterprise Solutions Engineer. He is a very popular speaker who has a great talent of explaining even the most complex capabilities of our product in a very understandable manner. So I'm very happy to have you here, David, for today's topic. Phrase language AI is indeed quite complex. So happy to have you. And yeah, I guess over to you.
Thanks, Clara. We'll send the check for that introduction a little bit later today. Thank you so much. That was €100, right? All right. So, want to talk about some things. Adding machine translation to your projects is something I think everybody here is doing. It's 2025. I think we've gotten over the hump. We're not talking about machine translation. We're actually using it. Um, that is one of the assumptions that I'm making in this conversation today. That you're not still having some reservations about the use of machine translation. It is what it is. It's there. I'm not going to talk about whether machine translation is wonderful and perfect for everything, or oh my gosh, there's pitfalls. It is what it is. Okay. I'm also, since we're talking about assumptions, assuming that everyone here is familiar with phrase, specifically phrase TMS. So we're not really going to dive into a lot of preamble about how to use the platform. We're going to dive right into machine translation configuration and language AI configuration. We'll see some analytics. We'll see some different moving pieces. We may even see a guest appearance by phrase orchestrator if time permits. So we're going to cover the gamut. Please hang in there if some things aren't entirely familiar. We can get you additional resources to help you get up to speed. But let's really spend a few minutes talking about what it takes to add machine translation in a sane and safe manner to a localization automation project. And that's the key. This is an automation solution. We are trying to boost the productivity of our language teams, the subject matter experts that we have who are either performing translation, who are doing post editing, or we are simply trying to get through an extraordinary volume in a cost-effective manner. So we're leaning on machine translation for one of those reasons. The phrase platform supports more than 30 different machine translation engines. I'm pretty sure I've left a couple off of this list. I apologize if you represent one of the organizations that I've left off. Still love you, but had to make room. What do you have to do to add these to a project effectively? You do have to have some goals in mind. Like I mentioned, are we trying to have cost reductions, quality improvements, volume issues we're trying to overcome? What is it that we really need to be able to accomplish? You want to have some comparison of the different engines that are on the market. It's no secret. There's plenty of research on the market to show that there is legitimate variation in quality and performance over time across different content domains across all these different engines. And then throw in the additional variable of language pairs. Which locales are we trying to support? Which pairs do we want to support? You may find that this month Google is the best engine for your target locale for the content that you're trying to translate. Maybe it's software technical documentation, but then you try to run through marketing content through the same engine. Your results are a little bit different. They're not the same level of quality that you're expecting because it's two different content domains. You might need to have a different engine to tackle that. So in reality, what we have found is that a healthy machine translation approach is to have more than one engine, not only for those issues of varying quality, over time across domain and language pair, but availability too. Sometimes these go out of commission. So what happens when you have an outage in your preferred engine? What's your fallback? Does everything just come to a screeching halt in your localization operation? So evaluating those different things, how do you measure that? Are you doing turnaround time measurements? Are you measuring post-edit distance? Are you looking at blue scores, ter scores? There's a jambalaya of different scores that are out there that you can select from and utilize. And then you have to go out once you've made some decisions about which engines you're going to trust with your content and buy them. Right. You go ahead and make the purchases. If you're going to do any custom work with them, you got to do that. If you're going to integrate them into existing systems, you have to do that work. You need to have some way of submitting content, retrieving content. There's probably going to be some level of API integration that happens there. And then, oh, by the way, once you get that work done, you need to do it over again because things change constantly. You want to keep reviewing these things periodically to make sure you're getting the best of the best. So there's a lot that goes into having an effective machine translation strategy as a part of your overall localization operations. Okay? It's an effort. It takes staff hours. You just have to do it. Or, and Clara, if you can read my mind, awesome. That's the point of today is phrase language AI. All of that work that goes into evaluating machine translations based off of test data, sample data, uh, AI-driven testing, human-driven testing, third-party evaluations and data sets, all that's something that's done by our operations team at Phrase. And we're continuously evaluating the machine translation engine products that are on the market. When we find engines that meet our threshold for quality, for performance, for security, for privacy, we add them into phrase language AI. We actually just released an update that includes two additional engines. Widen is a part of the family now, as is DeepL's generative AI solution. Okay? So the engines that make it into this phrase language AI feature are really good engines. We've tested them, and we're getting great feedback from our tests and from our customers when we roll these things out in preview. What you also have when these engines are a part of phrase language AI is the release of effort from having to go do commercial contracts with them. These are available to you as part of your phrase subscription. So you do not have to go out and get a separate contract with Microsoft, with Google, with Phrase, or sorry, with DeepL. I was looking at our logo. Systran, whomever, Widen, they're all there and available for you. And we also have business agreements in place around privacy and security. So when you use the engines that are included in phrase language AI, you are not giving content to Google to train the next iteration of its own product, or to Amazon, or to Microsoft, or to whomever. It's all going to be private. We have those policies and contractual obligations for them to follow our privacy standards. Okay, so it's going to be secure. We have those checks and balances in place. So we take away the effort of having to do that evaluation, of having to do the contracting, of having to worry about security and privacy, of having to do continuous evaluation over time of these different engines. We also include as part of this the dynamic selection of the engine when you submit content. So this is a really big deal. A lot of solutions on the market that say, "Oh yeah, you can have access to multiple engines, terrific," but you still have to pick one in advance, or you have to pick a couple in advance, a primary and a fallback. We don't do that. We don't select the engine until you actually put content into your projects, and then dynamically the AI inside of phrase language AI evaluates your content, looks at the language pairs that are involved, looks at the domain of the content, looks at our results and our testing and says, oh, well, in this case, let's use Widen, or in this case, let's use Amazon, or in this case, let's use Google. And that will vary over time. So you get the benefit of all the different engines that you have in the cohort. This leads to a major savings in the back end in time and effort and ultimately budget, obviously. When you pick the right engine to begin with, you're immediately getting a boost because you're getting a better translation to start. Everything else cascades from there. So our testing, our customer feedback has been, a bit of 50% cost savings, 55% compared to human translation. That number is ticking upward as we continue to make improvements to AutoSelect and include more engines. We have the glossary integration already, which eliminates the statistic that I saw was 80% of the errors related to content branding. So huge savings that come from using the right translation engine and from language AI being able to help you make that selection. There's one other really great piece of phrase language AI, which is the quality scoring. And there is a selection of algorithms out there in the marketplace that can be used to evaluate machine translation engine quality. You'll hear a lot of people talking about MT quality estimation. That's a part of phrase language AI. Our MT quality estimation tool is called Quality Performance Scoring. It's QPS. You will see it in the platform when you use phrase language AI. And so that is one of the benefits of using phrase language AI. You can use any other technique that you like, but we're just scoring the things that come through phrase language AI because we have a really stable platform to do the comparisons and to do the calculations. There are a few other things that come along with phrase language AI. We'll take a look at them here in just a minute along the way. There's reporting that comes with it. There's an API that covers this, so you can integrate this into your custom applications, right? So if you want to have machine translation be part of your custom apps, great. The API is there, and you get all this benefit of dynamic engine selection and the breadth of availability of the different engines. So with that, I think now is probably a good time for me to jump out of the slides and look at some examples. And this is what we're going to look at. We're going to look at just start with the old school, right? We're going to pretend it's 2005, and we've just got a machine translation engine. We want to use it because really, our platform is about flexibility. So if you have put in the time, put in the effort, and you have a machine translation engine that you want to use for a specific purpose, we don't want to stop you. We want to make it easier for you. So let's take a look at plugging in our favorite machine translation engines into the platform just by themselves. And then let's see how it looks when we start getting the benefits of phrase language AI and start working with engines that are a part of the phrase language AI cohort. So we'll look at just basic configuration. We'll get it into a project configuration. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening with Orchestrator and what we can do next after we've invoked phrase language AI. We'll pop into analytics. We'll pop into some self-service options, and that'll round out the next 20, 25 minutes or so. All right. So again, if you have questions, pop them into Slido, and Clara will interrupt me because she is well practiced at that. And let me make sure I'm sharing the correct desktop. Right. Clara, can you see my phrase TMS settings? I saw a thumbs up. Excellent. Okay. So to begin with, let's say you went out, you did the work, you've picked an engine. An admin can go into settings, and there will be an integrations section, there is the machine translation engines option right here. I already have it open in another tab just so we don't have to wait for things to pop open. You can see I actually have a couple already added here. Okay. No issue there. I do have some MT usage reporting here. I don't think I've used one actually this year. Oh, okay, I've done a little bit. Back on May 12th, I used Microsoft Translator for a few words. Fabulous. Um, so if I want to add another one, just go up here to create, and I can choose one of the engines that we support. So maybe Baidu. If you have gone out and you've purchased a subscription, you'll get your keys, you'll get some IDs. And that's it. Just plug it in here, give it a name, pop those in and hit create, and then you're actually done. That's it. So, okay, what now? Well, now you can start adding it to your project. So if I create a new project and slip in here to the machine translation engine section. You see my default is phrase language AI because I have it set up as my default engine, but I can change that, and you'll notice that down here at the bottom, there's my DeepL, there's my Microsoft Translator that I was picking on. So we can add it there, and this is the machine translation engine that will be used during pre-translation for your project. This is also the machine translation engine that'll be available when you look in a project and use the pre-translate tools or machine translation tools that are available to a project manager. So it's really simple if the Phrase platform supports that machine translation engine in general, then it's there. Takes a few seconds to get it going, you're done. Now, with Phrase Language AI, and you notice that there is a separate menu over here for Phrase Language AI. It's a little more involved. There is a default. So those of you who are following along, you may see something a little bit different than what's on my screen. And that's because I have added different profiles for different types of content. So I can mix and match the usage of different engines, maybe different glossaries, and have different projects associated with them. So you can see I've got a bunch of profiles set up here. If I inspect this one, which I'm actually kind of migrating into as my default, um, this is what it looks like. This is going to be your opportunity to make some adjustments. Um, by default, I have these nine right there in front of me. We can turn these on or turn these off for no particular reason. I've got Tencent turned off. I don't know why. I can turn off Rosetta. I can turn them back on at any time, and this will update. So Amazon, Google, Phrase. This set of engines are the engines from which we will choose when we submit content to our projects. I have glossaries attached. We're going through the updating right now. This is a fun feature that you don't get if you just have a stock machine translation engine connected to Phrase. We will do the work behind the scenes to integrate with the translation engines so that MT glossaries are kept in sync. So we can make sure that we're using your preferred vocabulary at the moment that machine translation is happening off on those services, as opposed to trying to make glossary enforcement a post-editing activity. Let that sink in for a second. That is a major, major time saver. That's a major quality boost that's right there. You'll also notice that there's a few of these engines are generative AI models. So DeepL, Widen, Phrase NextMT, um, they are using AI LLM technology in the background. DeepL's doing its thing, Widen's doing its thing. Phrase, we're working with OpenAI on some custom modeling in the background. Each of these will support glossaries. Each of these will support RAG. So if you're really focusing on when you do retrieval augmented generation for this, hey, terrific. You can make sure that you're using those engines as part of the cohort. But when you look at this list, one thing to think about is there are some differences in these engines. You can visibly see it. Some of these do not support glossaries. They're missing the glossary link right there. Some of these have data region policies. So if you're in a position where, hey, I need to make sure that my processing happens in a specific geo because I have data residency requirements that have to be met, terrific. We can use just the ones that have data region policy, and we can turn off all the others, right? There are some ones that are customizable. DeepL can do, formality adjustment and some of those kind of things. So that's really neat. Super helpful if you're doing German or Japanese that have some fun nuances in terms of formality. So this engine can be used now inside of a project, or this cohort rather. And if I were to look at a project that I already have in flight, I've already got some content in here. I'm gonna scroll up and look at my settings. Now, as you might imagine, all I need to do is switch from, you know, a machine translation and a specific machine translation engine and pick my uh, language AI profile. But in this case, I'm actually doing something a little fancier. Instead of using the same engine for all languages, I can break it up. Right? So I can have language coverage through phrase language AI in ways that maybe I can't using just a single engine. So in this particular example, doing a few different languages, uh, three of the four, I'm using phrase language AI. I'm letting them, be chosen at runtime when content is submitted. And then the last language on the list there is Haitian. For those of you not familiar with the HT code, and let's just say I've done some testing on Microsoft Translator, and uh, we've decided to trust it in this project with our Haitian content. We like it. Great, we can use them. We can use the two side by side. So it's not an either or choice. You can have a refined strategy where you're getting the best of both worlds. You can pick an engine specifically for use, or you can let Phrase help power that decision and take advantage of that dynamic capability. In
David,
practice, yes,
sorry.
go ahead.
Is it a good time to spend some time on empty glossaries? There are a couple of questions on that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that. I want to show the results of phrase language AI translation and what's happened there. But let's talk about glossary first, because I think that's a great topic to cover first.
Yeah, so there's a question actually what the difference is between empty glossaries and term bases. And then there's a
Fantastic
follow-up.
question. We are desperate to rationalize that and just have one thing. And it's an ongoing project. It's a little bit of an effort because the different machine translation engines you have to have, obviously integration work being done. And we don't want that integration work to get in the way of term bases in the broader platform. And there's some formatting things, and there's a few other things we have to worry about there. We've also gotten some feedback that some people, I won't say everybody, I don't want to be too general about this comment, is there are some people who have found it convenient to have a subset of their term base extracted and used as a translation memory glossary because they can focus on the job at hand. So maybe you just want to have some key branding content as a part of the MT glossary, as opposed to the term base, which may have a wider selection of terminology across. There's different strategies that people have taken. For practical purposes, if you are a project manager in Phrase, or if you're doing administration, the really important thing to understand between MT glossaries and term bases, and the fact that they are separate, is that MT glossaries, see how easy that is to get that messed up, folks? Machine translation glossaries will be synchronized with the different engines that are a part of the phrase language AI profile. So whatever I've added here is being synchronized with DeepL and Google and Microsoft, so that when the translation is created, we're using that glossary term as best as possible. Okay. So it's about the creation, the automatic creation of a good translation that uses that terminology. Term base is very much a reactive tool. Term bases are used as part of the quality assurance efforts in the platform to alert an editor or a translator that there is a term that's being identified that has a specific or preferred translation, and you should either take advantage and use it or identify that it hasn't been used and flag it as an error. So if you think about the translation creation pipeline, uh, the immediate creation, if it's being driven by machine translation, AI translation, uh, MT glossary is really important because that impacts the creation. Term base is a tool to inspect the already created translation and flag errors and catch things before they go too much further in the process. So hopefully that helps. It's a little bit nuanced. Um, it's not a perfect world in which we're talking about term base and MT glossary being two different things. But that's just kind of the way that it's had to work out from a technical perspective, and we are investigating how to bring that all under one roof as best as possible.
Cool. Thank you so much. Some other people from the audience are asking whether there's a quick way to use the term base to generate the empty glossary.
Um, you can export a term base as a TBX format and import it into your MT glossary as is. So if you feel like your term base is usable as is, and you don't have to do any cleanup, just export it um, as a TBX, and then you can go into phrase language AI to MT glossaries, um, pick, new MT glossary. You'll pick your languages. Feels very familiar, right? For those of you who have worked with term bases. And then when we're in there, you will be able to hit the big shiny import button down here at the bottom and choose your format. Um, I called out TBX. I always forget Excel is still a valid thing. If you're going to use Excel, there is a column header format that we expect. It's documented on the Help Center. So do make sure you are falling in line there. Okay. That's the fastest way. If you need to do cleanup, if you need to extract a specific subset of terminology, we don't have a fast tool to do that I'm aware of. So it'll be kind of a manual thing, or you can do some, regex or whatnot after you export the file. Okay.
Cool.
Great questions.
Then I guess when you are actually translating a project, it doesn't have to be either or empty glossary or term based. You can actually have both, no?
You want to have both, right? You
Yeah.
absolutely want to have both because you're going to have in your workflow. Let's see, project. Let me come over here. Yeah, let me go into project settings here. Um, your MT engine, this is going to be responsible for creating your initial translation. This is going to take advantage of MT glossary. In quality assurance, you're going to have your terminology section. And if you are taking advantage of QA checks, then yeah, you're going to want to have a term base that's powering this. So they are different tools that are being used for different purposes. If I can show an example, here is nope, let's do this one. Here is a um, translation that's been done. Do I not have a term base attached to this project? I may not. Yeah, I should be getting some hit highlighting here if I did have my term base attached. That's me. Bad demo presenter for not doing that. There we go. Here's a project that has my term bases correctly attached to the project definition. And you can see that not only am I getting machine translation results here I am getting a term base hit that's being highlighted in the editor. I see where this comes from. I've got a TB named phrase terminology that's being used. So if I try to advance to the next step, then quality assessment checks will come in, make sure that the term has been correctly translated before we move on, as long as we have the project configured to enforce that. Okay. So this editing process, we're already kind of in a reactive mode. So we're reacting to the translation. We're reacting to the fact that there is identified terminology in here, and we can present that to the editor and have that be dealt with appropriately. Whereas the generation of the uh, translation that needs to be remedied, and MT glossaries will be a part of that. Okay. Great questions.
Thanks, David. Let's leave you to it now.
All
Let's
right. Let's take a few minutes and look through a few different things here. I think we've got the setup, so we're going to look at some results. We saw a little bit of that in a different project, but this one is my uh, uh, Haitian target. Okay, so this is giving me the translations into Haitian. You can see it's machine translation over here in the cat pane. This is telling me where it came from. Down here at the bottom, it's MS Translator. It's that direct connection to Microsoft Translator that I have configured in my TMS. We're not using phrase language AI, just fine. Hey, we're getting results, right? If we had our term bases in here correctly, um, and we had support for Haitian in the term base, we get our hit highlighting, all that good stuff would be there. It's fine. MT, yep, we've got a MT suggestion that's right there. We know that. So the project works as normal. If I move to the next open tab, this is the same project, but I am using phrase language AI. In this case, I'm asking for a Welsh translation of the content. I'm getting MT results, and you can see the little MT there. If I click on this segment, MT is there. This is telling me which engine. Okay, so I don't know which engine is being chosen by phrase language AI until it actually executes. So in this case, we reached in and we're using phrases, next gen MT, which is our generative AI solution, and it's bringing that back. It's also bringing back a quality score. So that 93 there, that is a score based on a 0 to 100 scale, which is trying to tell us how good this translation is, whether it's usable or not. Now, this number is based off of an adaptation of the DQF MQM frameworks. It is segment level, and it is very much geared toward comparing the translation candidate to the source content. Okay, so there's some caveats there with it. So we're kind of going, yeah, this is pretty nicely in line with the source. There's some AI tools that we're running in the background, some LLMs that we're running to do that evaluation, and come back with this score. This score can be used in automation in a couple of different places. If I look back into the project settings under pre-translation, you notice that there is, just like you'd expect, your TM threshold. Um, there is the opportunity to apply machine translation comparatively. So we can ask phrase, hey, go get a TM match. If the TM match is below our threshold, then go ahead and apply machine translation, or give me a translation memory match and compare the match strength to the QPS score when you go get machine translation. So we can do both simultaneously. We can compare translation memory match and fuzzy match to MT, and whichever score is higher, we can go ahead and dynamically use that. Now there's, some processing impact and things like that you want to consider. But if you are just getting started and don't have great reusable assets that you trust, or still haven't quite figured out the MT strategy for a particular language, this is really convenient to get the ball rolling more quickly than having to do all that analysis. Similarly, just like we can use the TM threshold to proactively confirm and lock segments, we can use QPS to confirm and lock segments. So if we meet QPS threshold, we can go ahead and confirm a segment proactively and prevent it from being modified by an editor further down the line. The QPS score is also accessible to Phrase Orchestrator. We're getting kind of low on time, so I'm not going to pop into Orchestrator today. Be a great follow-up session. But there is a template available in Phrase Orchestrator today that will dynamically route segments based off of QPS score. So if you decide on a QPS threshold, you can lock uh, anything that is at or above that threshold, and then dynamically assign the rest to the next step of the workflow. If that's AI post editing, if that is human post editing, professional post editing, whatever, you can do it. So these QPS scores can really drive additional automation opportunities once they are available. And just to kind of drive the point home with the engine selection, a different project over here with some different kinds of content. I popped in a second ago, where this was, you saw this a moment ago when I was doing term-based highlighting, but this was a request for Spanish, and we actually chose widen in this case. Next request is for French, and we use NextMT again. So really, another Spanish request. We've already seen Spanish once, and we used widen. We're seeing Spanish here, and we chose NextMT. Different kinds of content can be handled differently or expected to be handled differently by different engines. So we're taking that into account with the execution. Getting your content submitted to Phrase Language AI is no different than any other content that you're submitting to Phrase, right? If you're using integrations with plugins to, say, Contentful or Adobe Experience Manager, it's there. It's all part of the project template. Your project managers can upload content. We've also introduced a new self-service portal. Um, the Phrase AI portal is something that you can secure. You can have multiple iterations of. So you can see here as an administrator, I'm looking at 3 different iterations of the portals that I've secured to different audiences. If I come in here, the translation work is, we are basically doing what you'd expect when you see 2 text boxes and some language selections. This is an alternative to people going out and using commercial tools like Google or DeepL that are not secure, that are not using your assets. They can upload documents to here. So if you don't have a strict process for, let's see, for your content, what am I looking for here? No, 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 no. That's fine. We can upload that document here and translate it immediately. They'll get instant results. So as soon as it is finished translating, we'll be able to download the file. In the interest of time, I'm going to short circuit. I think everybody here has seen a file download in the past. But what I really want to show people here who are admins and project managers is the fact that behind the scenes, I am able to use Phrase Language AI. So this is what's powering this self-service portal. I can choose from one of the profiles that I've configured in Phrase Language AI, or I can manually adjust these. I can take advantage of our translation memories. I can provide support for specific languages if I don't want to have endless language coverage. And we can have some specific access and consumption limit things in here. The point is, we can get all of the machine translation engine activity that's occurring in the organization that either you do know about today or maybe you don't know about. We've got customers who have told us there's rogue loc spend out there. People are in a department swiping a credit card and getting a subscription to DeepL or Google Pro, and the loc team doesn't know about it. So we can give them an alternative that uses our assets that's secured using our technology, our approved technologies, and really get some control over that. And we get visibility into it all because whether it's going through a TMS project, a phrase strings project, which we haven't talked about at all, or through the self-service portal, it's being instrumented. We're seeing it in analytics. So we can see things like, hey, all these QPS scores that are being generated, what's that telling us about the organization and the quality that we're getting? So we're seeing things like edit times across QPS scores. We're seeing cost savings. We're seeing these different things. And we are actually able to extrapolate and provide some insights above and beyond just reporting the numbers. So over time, usually a few months, we're going to be able to have some predictability around QPS scoring. We can also see that in things like TM thresholds, where we know that based off of segment time editing, edit distance, if you have a translation memory fuzzy, it might not be worthwhile at the back end to use it. Go ahead and get a machine translation if you can reach this level of quality with it. Very interesting questions that we're posing here. And of course, just the all up, engine utilization, where are these things coming from, where the translation's coming from, what pairs are being used. Very rich analytics inside of phrase analytics. And then, of course, also inside of phrase language AI, there will be additional analytics to get into a bit more granular detail about the usage. So how many units, how many characters, which engines are being used, what languages are really driving this, what projects are driving it. Lots of actionable information um, for your projects. So from here, looking at phrase language AI as a great way to get a good initial translation using QPS scoring to drive additional automation. Really want to start thinking about other things in the phrase platform to drive additional automation opportunities. So things like MT optimize to take care of general machine translation issues that we see across the board. Phrase AutoAdapt to do creative transformation and take it output and make it more appropriate for a specific target audience. Those sorts of things are all things that we want to talk about next that build on the foundation of using phrase language AI. I believe I've gone over my allotted time, and we're pretty close to the end, so I want to be respectful of everyone's calendars. I'm not going anywhere. I'll keep answering questions until they're all done. But thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful. And Clara, I will kick it over to you to talk about what's coming up next.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David, for the presentation and for actually like a really nice segue there when you mentioned AutoAdapt and MT Optimize and all these things. We will cover them tomorrow at our next session. It will be happening at the same time as this one today. If you haven't registered yet, I will paste the link to the chat here. Even if you cannot make it live, you can still sign up and then receive the recording in your inbox. So this session will be about making large language models work across your localization project, from generation of the content, then adaptation, and then also evaluation. So make sure to be there. It will be kind of a follow-up on this session today. And yeah, I will see you there. And now moving on to the questions. There are quite a lot of them, so let's get started. Can you customize the formality per project? So, for instance, in project A, MT uses formal tone of voice, and in project B, the MT uses informal tone.
So we have to take that question from two different perspectives. One is, can we influence it when the translation is created, or can we influence it in post edit? The first part, influencing when the translation is created, depends on the machine translation engine that's being used. So DeepL, for example, rather famously, is good at taking formality into account. It's actually something that's exposed in their UI. We expose it in ours as well. Not every engine exposes formality as something that can be adjusted at the time of creation. So if that's very important to you from a quality perspective, do make sure that the engines that you are allowing into phrase language AI support that. Now, alternatively, because we know most engines don't. Most engines just don't do that. Um, we'll want to look at influencing it during post edit, because if you restrict the number of engines that you have creating translations too much, then you risk losing language coverage. You risk losing domain coverage for the different types of content. So it's a balancing act, right? So what you can do is come to tomorrow's webcast and really dig into what can happen from automation in the post-edit experience. Your first thing, which I don't know, Clara, if they're going to talk about MT Optimize, but okay, perfect. So MT Optimize is an action in Phrase Orchestrator, which does take formality into account and will do post-edit cleanup. So not to get too far ahead, but if you can't make it tomorrow, MT Optimize does things like cleaning up agreement. So a grammatical number agreement, grammatical gender agreement, just a lot of grammar cleanup, a lot of stuff that we've seen over the years of why MT makes us pull our hair out. MT Optimize can do that, but we can only do it in post edit. And there is a formality flag there. If that's not quite enough, then take a look at AutoAdapt, because your custom language requirements that you can add to AutoAdapt should really nail it in the end. So that's what we have. It's a great question. Sadly, it's one of those things where we have to go, it's multiple parts to it. Remember, there are multiple parts. There's the prep, there's the creation, and then there's the post. So we've got create, solid. We've got post, pretty good. Prep, come back in a month. We're going to have some cool stuff to talk about. Okay. Great question. Thank you for that.
Thank you, David. Can you say something more about QPS? Is it generated based on prompts, or is it something more advanced? Have you been able to test it for consistency, and have you been benchmarking it against human evaluators?
Yes. So we have been benchmarking against human evaluators. We have been testing it. We have the people who have been doing amazing work against it. It is not end user customizable. So it's just is what it is, and I have no shame in saying that. It's something that as you use it, you will learn what it needs to mean to you. Okay. It's just a little bit of a different tenor for everybody. What's driving it is the rationalized DQ-FMQM framework, similar to what is used for LQA. So if you've spent any time with language quality assessment and being able to build that matrix of criteria and error categorization that drives that formal assessment of content, that's what we're doing. And we're teaching the LLM that and how to evaluate against that. There are certain things that have to be left out because it's segment level, first of all. It's not taking into consideration the breadth of the document. It's just that segment. So the scope is limited. And there are certain things that are just very, very subjective in LQA, in the DQF-MQM framework. And those kind of fall by the wayside. So we try to keep it to as grammatically strict, things that can be rules driven and don't need to have a strong human opinion to do that. So what we're trying to do is give you a handle to uh, uh, identify potential problem areas. So if you come back with a QPS score of 100, it means that it's a good segment in terms of it feels like it did a technically reliable job of representing the original segment in the target locale, in the target language. Um, that's all it means. Does that mean it's good enough for the purposes of your particular, I mean, the entire industry? If we're doing it right, when we send content for translation, we have already identified the risk profile and the quality profile of that content. So we know how much risk we can accept from the translation. We know what our quality objectives are. So for different strata of that idea, you're probably going to have different ideas about what QPS means. So if I have content that is risk tolerant, and I need to have the translation done, even if there may be a couple of not perfectly fluent. Maybe there's a little bit of a readability issue. For some reason, technical documentation always gets lumped into that bottom category, which offends me as someone who's written technical content. But usually that kind of stuff, it's a little more risk tolerant. So we can say, yeah, you know what, 80 and above, 85 and above, 90 above, whatever it is for you, great. We can take that, we can automate the daylights out of it and just get it out the door. The translation, that is, get that translation out the door. If it's your core marketing material and it's the campaign that your creative staff has been laboring over for 8 months to get the wording just right, oh heck no, we're going to make sure that the scores are super high, and we drive it off of that. So it's not customizable, but you can understand where those scores ultimately fit in your framework of risk acceptance and quality objectives, and use that to your advantage to have as much automation and improve turnaround time as much as possible.
Great. Thank you so
And
much.
great question. Yeah, I love these questions. It all
Yeah.
comes back to risk and quality. How much risk will you accept, and how much quality, or how high quality are you looking to achieve?
Yeah. Next question, would it be possible to ask questions later, for example, after watching the recording? Absolutely. There are multiple ways that you can reach out to us. Either you are an existing customer of Phrase, you are already using Phrase, you maybe have a dedicated customer success manager. The
Yeah.
best way there would be to reach out to them and ask any questions you have. There is also the help button within the product where you can always reach out for technical support. Or if you just want to check anything about the webinar, you can just respond to the email that you received the recording in. It's the community@phrase.com email address. Feel free to reach out there.
Yep.
Anything to add there, David?
Oh, if you're an existing Phrase customer, then your CSM knows where to find me. So just send them an email, say, what was that McNamee guy talking about? As just, we'll follow up. We'll get you hooked up.
Cool.
The great thing also with that is, if you are an existing Phrase customer, if you do have premium success, get ready to enjoy the benefits of everboarding. Because if you have not done Phrase Language AI and want to start using it, your customer success manager will help you get started. You do not have to do it alone. Similarly, if you're not a Phrase customer yet, you don't have to do it alone. We will help you every step of the way, getting things configured and up and running.
Thanks. When preparing machine translation glossaries, MT glossaries, do
Yep.
all available MT engines have the same rules as per requirements for the glossary? For example, no pipe symbol, no forbidden words, no duplicate terms, etc. So I can use my MT glossary for all MT engines.
So it would be a wonderful world if all the MT providers followed the same rules and same requirements. So no, they don't. But that's where we come in. We rationalize those rules in the background. So that's why we have a pipeline to deliver MT glossaries to the different engines so we can look out for formatting. We can escalate issues, if there's something there, and be very as helpful as possible in overcoming the differences between the different engines. It's a great call out because yeah, some people, some engines don't accept certain characters. Pipes was a great one. So yeah, watch out for that, and we'll be able to help with that and smooth out that path. And that's all automated.
Perfect. Does the MT engine take the translation memory into account as context to generate a translation?
So some of them do. Some of them do. So um, uh, uh, what's it called? Retrieval augmented generation. It's an acronym that just for some reason does not roll off my tongue that easily. I have to think about it. RAG, retrieval augmented generation, is supported by both of the phrase engines that are added to Phrase Language AI, which, by the way, you can only get to those engines as a part of Phrase Language AI. They do not exist outside of that. Um, I believe Widen accepts it, as well as the new DeepL Gen AI. I could be wrong about that. I could be very close to having a rock thrown at my head by someone if I say that with too much authority. But the ones that do, absolutely, we will include results from TM to improve the initial translation result. Obviously, uh, uh, NMT from a few years ago, it's not doing it. That didn't exist. It's not a thing. Those work the way that they worked, 3 to 5 years ago. So again, it's a mix and match. It's all of these different engines working together. They have different strengths. They have different weaknesses. They have different coverages. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish, feel free to have different engines in your profile. Feel free to make multiple profiles so that you can have some customization based off the different projects.
Thank you. And the last question, I think this one came in as we were talking about the empty glossaries back then and how to create, and if it's possible to create one from the term base.
Yeah,
So I think it's like a little mix of terminology here. So
yeah, that's
maybe
fine.
how
Yeah,
to
term base.
import term base.
Yeah, you can take your term base. You can take your existing term base, export it as a TBX or like a Excel file, um, and then you can turn right around and import it into TMX. You can automate that. I mean, obviously, Phrase API, if you think that's something that you're going to want to do pretty regularly, Phrase API can help clean that up. Um, we're looking at additional automation opportunities in that space, as well as, like I said, during the session proper, trying to rationalize that so you don't have to have so many moving pieces. But today, it is what it is. And you do need to do a little bit of work there. But unless you are really going to go in and do some TB cleanup and minimize the number of entries in the MT glossary, you just do an export and then re-import into MT glossary. After that happens, you can go into your individual language AI profiles and have different glossaries attached. So for those of you who have sort of a multi-customer world, whether it's external customers or internal customers, you can have different MT glossaries attached to different phrase language AI profiles so that brand and tone of voice and those different things are different across profiles and projects.
And then the MT glossary, if you ever want to download that, you can also
Oh yeah,
download that.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're pretty consistent about your assets being your assets. We don't want to get in the way. If you want to pull them down and use them for something else, it's self-service.
All right. Thank you so much. It looks like we are at the end of the questions. Timing is also perfect. So thank you again, David, for an amazing presentation and demo. I hope this was useful, and we will be back with the recording in your inbox. And for some of you, also see you tomorrow at the next session. We have a little survey at the end of the session. As we close it, it will pop up on your screen. Please let us know your feedback. Was this useful? What other topics would you like to see? And yeah, we will be back with some more sessions. Thank you, David.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good day.